So we are promised by many politicians that mass deportations will create many more new job opportunities for US-born workers. But we can study past mass deportation efforts that have happened in the last several decades to understand whether this promise will actually bear out in practice. And so what my colleagues and I have done is to study a policy called Secure Communities that was implemented in the first Obama administration. And that policy led to about 400,000 people being deported over about a 4-year period. And this policy actually had very harmful effects for the US labor market and did not create more jobs for US-born workers.
I think wrapped up in that promise is a notion that if a person is deported, that job opens up and someone who is a US citizen could take that job. When you look at history, is that in fact how it bears out?
Right, so it sort of comes from this very simple idea of how the labor market works, which is that if we remove one worker from the US through a deportation or a detention, that frees up one job for a US-born worker. And sort of embedded in that idea is that there is a fixed number of jobs, so it doesn't matter how many people or the types of people that are living in the US, the availability and the number of jobs remains fixed. And that's actually not how the labor market works. It's much more dynamic and flexible than just a sort of a one-for-one exchange, where if we remove one unauthorized worker, that creates one job for a US-born worker.
I wonder if we focus too much on the effects on the labor market in exclusivity, that this has broader effects on the economy. And I wonder if you could kind of tick through, again, those kind of macro effects that we're likely to see beyond just in the workforce.
Absolutely. So one of the big things that's talked about right now is inflation and the fact that prices have gone up so much in the last couple of years. And one of the promises, again, that's been made by politicians is that a mass deportation effort might help to solve inflation and help bring prices back down. But I think this is, again, sort of relying on too simple of an economic model of how inflation works. So the idea that, we've sort of been promised is that if we just have fewer people living in the US, that will cause prices to go down. That is true, except that it ignores the fact that immigrants also help produce many of the key goods and services where we actually have seen the prices go up. And so if you think about something like just groceries, like the price of eggs, which I know has received a lot of attention, if we see fewer people living in the US, yes, potentially that might lead to a reduction in prices, but that ignores the fact that many unauthorized immigrants work a lot in the agriculture sector that helps produce the eggs and helps drive the eggs from farms to the grocery store. And if we have fewer unauthorized immigrants doing both of those tasks, then that's going to lead to an increase in the price of eggs. So there's actually really good estimates from the Peterson Institute that suggest that just on the whole, if there is a large mass deportation that happens in the next few years, that could drive prices up by as much as 10%.
In October, we went to North Dakota to look at an economy that relies on immigration to fill gaps in its labor market.
My job is machine technician. I'm making parts of the window like this. You make it and then put the glove on.
Yor moved from South Sudan to the city of Fargo 14 years ago, seeking a better life. In 2013, she started working at Cardinal Glass and has been an employee there ever since.
Many immigrants, we work like a family, and friend, and teamwork, and we support each other.
So here in Fargo, we have 347 teammates. About 70% of our team is comprised of people born outside of the United States.
Plant manager Mike Arnson has worked at Cardinal Glass Fargo since it opened in 1998. The company manufactures residential glass for windows and doors with 10,000 employees across its 49 locations. In Fargo alone, it employs about 400 workers. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, North Dakota has the worst worker shortage in America, with only 30 workers for every 100 available jobs. That's well below the national average of 95 workers for every 100 jobs.
there are 30,000 open jobs in North Dakota. And although our workforce continues to grow, if we get every high school and college graduate, every individual coming out of our correction system, every person on disability into the workforce tomorrow, we would still have thousands of open jobs. And so we really do need to be looking outside of our state's borders and outside of our nation's borders to help identify how we can recruit workers to fill the jobs that we have available.
Katie Ralston-Howe is director of North Dakota's Workforce Division, overseeing the newly created Office of Legal Immigration. Their goal? To bring together immigrants seeking employment and companies that need workers.
Really, our focus is proactively identifying appropriate pathways and programs that we can utilize to help fill jobs in North Dakota. Employers have been responding really well. There's a ton of enthusiasm around the work that we're doing. Communities are responding well too. And so we've been able to really work with those who are already working in this space.
As the overall size of the U.S. workforce has grown, the proportion of immigrants in that workforce has grown as well, going from just over 15% back in 2010 to over 19% today. That's some 33 million people. The construction industry had the highest share of immigrant workers in 2022, an estimated 3.3 million people, or 11.7% of all immigrant employment. In comparison, there were just over 8 million native-born workers in construction in 2022, representing 6.2% of all native-born employment.
In addition to unauthorized workers working in different types of jobs than US-born workers do, the jobs that unauthorized workers work in, like construction laborers or bussers at a local restaurant, are complementary to jobs that US-born workers take. So if firms cannot find construction laborers, they will also hire fewer construction site managers and architects. If your local restaurant cannot find bussers and cooks, they will also hire fewer waiters and waitresses. And so when there is this decrease in unauthorized workers willing to take these less desirable jobs, it actually leads to a decrease in the demand for complementary jobs for US-born workers.
North Dakota businesses like Cardinal Glass have no doubts about how important immigrant workers are to the success of its operations and to the North Dakota economy overall.
As the economy grows, we need people to move to Fargo-Moorhead to help us run our businesses. And whether they come from Kansas City or New York City or Los Angeles or Somalia or Bosnia, we just need people to move here to help keep our economy growing.
For the management at Cardinal Glass and for its workers, immigration isn't about politics. It's about business and maybe something else. It's about reaching out to neighbors like Anna Yore to build relationships that work for both parties, which has proven to be the right as well as the smart thing to do.